In the cozy little town of Everbright, where glowing trees hummed, soft melodies and floating lanterns painted the night sky, lived a curious little girl named Leela. Leela had bright, wondering eyes and a heart full of questions. She loved rainy nights the most, when the world outside her window seemed to whisper secrets only the raindrops could hear. One stormy evening, as thunder rumbled gently in the distance, Leela heard a tiny, sad sound from her garden. It was a faint meow, almost lost in the pitter-patter of the rain. Peeking out from under her warm blanket, she crept to the window and looked down. There, huddled beneath a large, droopy flower, was a small, shivering cat with fur the color of caramel and eyes as green as new spring leaves. Leela's heart went out to the little creature. Without a second thought, she tiptoed downstairs, grabbed a fluffy towel, and gently opened the back door. "Hello there," she whispered, her voice as soft as a feather. "You look like you could use a friend." The cat looked up, its green eyes wide with surprise. Leela carefully wrapped him in the warm towel and brought him inside. She set him down by the fireplace, where the crackling flames danced merrily. As the cat began to dry, he shook his fur, sending tiny droplets sparkling in the firelight. Leela giggled and offered him a small bowl of warm milk. He lapped it up gratefully, and then, to Leela's astonishment, he looked right at her and spoke. "Thank you, kind girl," he said, his voice surprisingly deep and clear. "My name is Miso," Leela gasped, her eyes growing as wide as saucers. You can talk," she exclaimed. Miso nodded wisely. "I can do more than just talk," he explained, a hint of sadness in his tone. "I come from a place you can only imagine, a hidden kingdom of cats, where magic once flowed like a river of milk and honey. But our magic is fading." Leela leaned closer, completely captivated. "Fading? Why?" Miso sighed, his whiskers drooping. "Our kingdom is powered by the moonlight crystal," he began. "It gathers the shimmer of the stars and the glow of the moon, filling our world with light and wonder. But a shadow has fallen over it, and its light has grown dim. Without its magic, our home is turning gray and silent." He looked at Leela with pleading eyes. "The elders spoke of a prophecy that a human with a heart full of kindness and a mind full of courage could help us restore its light. When I saw you, I felt a spark of hope. Will you help me, Leela? Will you help us bring the magic back?" Leela's heart thumped with excitement. An adventure! A real, magical adventure! She had always dreamed of something like this. She looked at the little cat, saw the hope shining in his eyes, and knew what her answer had to be. "Yes," she said with a determined smile. "Yes, I'll help you." The very next morning, as the first rays of sunlight streamed through the window, Leela and Miso set off on their quest. Miso led the way, his tail held high, guiding them into the whispering woods that bordered the town. The trees here were ancient and tall, their leaves rustling with stories of old. Sunlight dappled the forest floor, and friendly squirrels chattered from the branches above. Their first challenge came in the form of a grumpy old badger guarding a rickety wooden bridge. "None shall pass," he grumbled, blocking their path with his stout body. Leela, remembering Miso's words about kindness, didn't try to argue. Instead, she noticed a patch of juicy, red berries growing nearby. She carefully picked a handful and offered them to the badger. "We don't mean any harm, sir," she said politely. "We're just trying to cross. Would you like some berries?" The badger blinked, surprised by her kindness. He sniffed the berries, his grumpy expression softening. He took one, then another, and with a huffy but grateful nod, he stepped aside and let them pass. Miso purred, impressed. "Kindness is a key that can unlock many doors, Leela," he said. As they ventured deeper into the woods, they came across a winding river that sparkled with mischief. It was the Giggling Brook, and its waters would change course every time someone tried to cross. To solve this puzzle, Miso explained, they had to make the river laugh. Leela thought for a moment, then began telling it the silliest jokes she knew. She told it about a cat who wore a hat and a fish who wished he could fly. She wiggled her nose and made funny faces, and soon the river began to bubble with laughter. The giggles grew into a happy gurgle, and the water swirled into a steady, shallow path for them to walk across. Finally, after a long day of walking and solving puzzles, they arrived at the entrance to the Cat Kingdom. It wasn't a gate or a door, but a shimmering waterfall that cascaded down a wall of mossy rock. "The entrance is behind the waterfall," Miso announced. "But to pass through, we must prove our courage. We must walk through the water without fear." Lila took a deep breath. The waterfall looked loud and powerful. She held Miso tightly, closed her eyes, and thought about all the cats who were counting on her. With a burst of courage, she stepped forward, right into the curtain of water. For a moment, there was only the roar of the water, and then silence. They were through. Lila opened her eyes to the most amazing sight she had ever seen. They stood on a cliff overlooking the Cat Kingdom of Felinia, but it wasn't the magical place Miso had described. The buildings, shaped like balls of yarn and cat towers, were gray. The river of milk was still, and the cats wandering the streets looked sad and listless. In the center of the kingdom, on a high pedestal, sat a large crystal. It was the moonlight crystal, but instead of glowing, it was dull and dark, with a shadowy mist swirling around it. "We have to get to the crystal," Miso urged, his voice filled with worry. They hurried down the path into the city. As they approached the crystal, the shadowy mist swirled more intensely, whispering doubts and fears. "You're just a little girl," it hissed at Lila. "You can't do this. You'll fail." Lila felt a shiver of fear run down her spine. Her steps faltered. But then she felt Miso nuzzle against her hand. She looked down at his determined green eyes and remembered the grumpy badger and the giggling brook. She had been brave then. She could be brave now. "I am not afraid of you," Lila declared, her voice ringing with newfound confidence. "I believe in myself, and I believe in my friend." As she spoke, a tiny spark of light flared within her heart. She reached out and placed her hand on the cold surface of the moonlight crystal. Miso placed his paw next to her hand. Together, they closed their eyes and poured all their hope, all their courage, and all their belief into the crystal. A brilliant light erupted from where they touched, pushing back the shadows. The crystal began to hum, and a warm, silver glow spread outwards, washing over the entire kingdom. Color returned to the buildings. The river of milk began to flow again, and the cats of Felinia lifted their heads, their spirits renewed. They began to purr, and the sound grew into a beautiful, magical chorus that filled the air. The moonlight crystal shone brighter than ever before, its light reaching up to the sky like a beacon of hope. The Cat Kingdom was saved. The cats of Felinia gathered around Lila and Miso, cheering and thanking them. The king and queen of Felinia, two majestic cats with wise, gentle eyes, bowed to Lila. "You have reminded us of the most powerful magic of all," the queen said, "the magic of a kind heart and a brave spirit." As the sun began to set, it was time for Lila to go home. Miso walked with her back to the waterfall. "Will I ever see you again?" Lila asked, her heart a little heavy at the thought of leaving her new friend. Miso smiled, a real, happy cat smile. "Friendship is its own kind of magic, Lila. It connects hearts, no matter how far apart they are. Just look up at the moon and know that I am looking at it too." He gave her one last, grateful nuzzle before she stepped back through the waterfall. Lila returned to her room just as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky. Everything looked the same, but Lila felt different. She was no longer just a curious little girl. She was an adventurer, a hero, a friend to a magical kingdom. She had learned that kindness could tame a grumpy badger. Laughter could part a river, and believing in herself could bring light back to a world of darkness. And as she drifted off to sleep that night, she smiled, knowing that the greatest magic of all was the magic she carried right inside her own heart. Thank you so much for watching our story. If you loved Lila and Miso's adventure, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more magical tailies. See you next time!